Okay, welcome to the channel. We are right now in lab 3114. So we're making progress. So we still are trying to do reconnaissance, footprinting. We're going to progress into vulnerability assessment. So now we're still trying to find information. Now we want to find information from SSL. So the question is, what is SSL? Secure socket layer. You have certificates. So how do we ensure that when we have communication between point A and point B, it is secure? So that's one way to do that. You fill a form on the website before it gets to the server. How are we sure that somebody is not able to see what the username and passwords are, what information you are submitting? How do we ensure all of that? We can know that using SSL. SSL certificates can also have issues. SSL certificates are going to have different algorithms. So this is a little bit of cryptography, right? So we want to be able to view those certificates. We want to see the information. We want to analyze some of these tools using open source tools on Kali and maybe on Windows. We want to use Kali tools to also gather all of this certificate information. Now, SSL has two broad functions. First, to provide ownership. That's why for web programmers, or if you're implementing digital assets online, anytime you want to install SSL certificate on a website, you can't install SSL certificate on a website you don't own. You must validate ownership. So that's one way to be sure who owns the website, because it's going to tell us the owner of the website. It's just like domain name, website name. We can typically tell who owns the website name by checking who registered it, when it was registered, and when it's expiring. Same thing for SSL certificates, is a type of identity. So if we come on the digital asset and we don't have all of the details, we can also check the SSL certificate. We can validate and confirm ownership. Now, secondly, it's a way for us to also make sure that client and server information is encrypted. Right? What do we mean by that? I have Mr. A. It's a very good guy. It's a good guy. I have Mr. B. It's a bad guy. So this guy accesses a website, right? And he's trying to enter things like username, password, date of birth, whatever. He has a form on the website. Anytime Mr. A fills this stuff and submits to the server, how are we sure that Mr. B, that is still on this same network, does not see all the information that Mr. A is sending to the website? One way to do that is encryption. What's encryption? Obfuscating text or content. Your content can be video, audio, image, text. How can we obfuscate? How can we kind of scramble the content? So instead of my password to be 1235 full stop 30x25d, it's not showing this way. It's showing as very, very long, something entirely different. So once you do this, you call it what? Encryption. Once you go back from, this is called plain text. This is called, rather, this is a cipher text. So this is plain text. This is cipher text. So this is called cryptography or cryptanalysis. So that's the study of trying to like encrypt. So this is what? Decrypt. And you have different algorithms, like you can say formula functions that can help us convert this into this. The idea is that if somebody stumbles upon the message, he's not going to be seeing this password. Let's say the password is 1234. This is a bad password. He's going to be seeing what? This. Right? So that's what SSL does for us. So that information between the user and the server is what? Is encrypted. Certificate information can be viewed locally for a website, right? We can also view it online because at times they can be stored locally. So for this particular lab, we just need our customized ethical hacker machine and maybe internet access. So the very first one is to view certificate information. So how can you know the certificate that a particular site is using? Ski for All used to be the former Cisco site. This site is no longer active, so we just use NetAccount, right? Right? So in most browsers, a padlock icon appears next to the URL. So click on the padlock. So this is the padlock. It used to be a padlock, but most browsers still cannot have it as this kind of sign. You see, site is secure. I can tap on it and it tells me there's a certificate. I can tap on this. It's not going to give me the details of the certificate. So this is like the certificate viewer for NetAccount. This is certificate. This is the public key. This is when it was issued. This is when it's expiring, right? Who issued it? Amazon. Somehow, this site is hosted somewhere in AWS. And it's also using the AWS assigned SSL certificates. Okay, look at all the details for the Cisco Skill for All Learn. What domain was the certificate issued for? So in this particular scenario, this is it. Issued by who? IdenTrust. But for this example we are using, it was issued to who? NetAccount. Issued by who? Amazon RSC, right? Or you can say Amazon, right? Does that make sense? Now the question is, where is it expiring? Resume record. Okay, now, so the another question is, view the when will it expire? So for this particular case study, it's expiring on 6th, 2024, January. In our own case, it's expiring on Monday, 22, 2005. What's the certificate signature encryption algorithm? So for here, we have, can go to details, certificate signature algorithm, we have SHA-256 with RSA encryption. So you see that you can actually investigate and know when a certificate is expiring, when it was secured, who issued it, what version it is, and what encryption algorithm. Remember, the lab is about finding SSL certificates. Now, why is it important for us to even understand this? The point is that there are some SSL certificates that can have some vulnerabilities. I've seen situations whereby a site with SSL certificates gets hacked. And the vulnerability can be from the SSL certificate, it can be from the issuer, it can also be from other aspects of the web application. So this is one thing you also need to be aware of. If you are doing your checks, you want to see and be sure that you see some sites, their certificate is expired. It means that it can have cause some leeway for vulnerability. Okay, now viewed stock certificates in the operating system. So the point is that, can we see the certificates that are being implemented and installed on our local machine, right? So what do we do? If you're running Windows machine, you can go to SAT Manager MSC in your search and hit on enter. So I'm going to run that. So I'm going to do something like this, SAT Manager.msc2. So if I click on this, I'm going to have this environment. Now, so this is Windows' own utility for you to see different certificates that are local on the system. Think about all the certificates that have been approved. eSIM certificate, for instance, for this laptop I'm using, passport, smart card, Active Directory, Enterprise Trust, AVG, all of the encrypted communications that you're going to have that enables this particular system to communicate to the outside world. For those ones that are stored on the system, you're going to have them here. Let's look at a very simple one like AVG Mail Scanner Trusted. So you see the certificate? Okay, this one doesn't have any certificate. Let's see the cache, scanner cache. We'll tap on this, right? You're going to see issued by this expiry 2040. Right? So understand that certificates just gives us a way to like make sure that communication between one point and the other is what? Is encrypted. Now in Kali, you can find the stored certificates by going to what? User, shares, certificates, Mozilla folder, right click on certificate and open view file to access the information. So let's do that. Let's go to our virtual box. Let's click on start. Let's allow this to load up. Okay, so okay, we've done for the Microsoft Windows environment. You just run this, you're going to see all the certificates that are within the local environment. If you want to do that for Kali, you can, let me get to my Kali environment. So we are told, just a second, let me put this on the right and put this guy on the left. So we are told we could go to user. We could go to user, that's the file system. So this is user, let me look for user. Let me see, user share, USR, okay, this is it, user shares, right? So CA certificates, certificate authority certificates, right? CA certificate, then Mozilla. Now, you see quite a lot of all of these certificates. Now, if you purchase SSL certificate and you are implementing it manually, this is actually what is given to you, right? If I have time on the channel, I might do a simple example of how certificates can be installed manually. The idea is that you purchase a certificate, you're going to be given CRT files, then you will go to your control panel, add the certificate file, then you add it up, then it now binds your website to the certificate authority, right? But for this one, we have been given some files that are like our sample files to understand what the file looks like. So this is the file that helps and provides such kind of security. And good enough for our lab purposes, we have quite a lot of certificates from different vendors. We have from Commodore, we have from SAT, we have from Setom, we have from DigiSat, we have from Signal, we have from Togra, we have from Entrust, we have from this, we have from GoDaddy, we have from SecureSign. These are companies that do what? That help businesses, companies to generate what? SSL certificates, right? And we just want to view one of them and see what it looks like. So we can just right click any of it and say what? View file, right? Open with view file. So you're going to see what it looks like, right? Are you seeing it? So it just tells you this is owned by what? Covadis. It expires so date, and these are the details. Are you seeing? Just similar to what we have in the, what's it called, on Windows that we saw in the browser. So that's to tell you that every certificate is going to have a key, It's going to have a, what's it called? It's going to have the issuer, it's going to have the expiry date and all of that. So I'm going to close this and I'm going to exit this environment. Now, you also have access information about trusted root and intermediate certificate in Windows by selecting the appropriate certificate folders in the management app. I think I've done that. In Kali, access the certificate folder and use this to list root certificate files or search for the word root in the file manager window. I think if we want to attempt to do that, we can do this. Go to, sorry, this, or rather, just a moment. We can go to file system, we can go to users, we can go to share, I think. Then we can go to CA certificate. Then we can go to Mozilla. We can right click and see if we can open terminal here. So this is this the same thing as going to your root, right? And say CD into directly to the file path. So I can just open, you see, it's like me saying I'm seeding into this particular folder. So I can now run this command, right? I can just say, okay, list for me -L, then I'm now piping it. So I'm piping. So I'm trying to say, okay, list all the items, but also do this, grep root, look for the line where you have root, right? So I'm going to issue the grep command and I'm going to say root, right? I see what it's going to do. It's just going to open that file and look for all the places where you have root. Now, the names of the root certificate files refer to the certificate authority that granted them, right? Are you seeing all the files? It has checked that folder, the folder we opened, all the certificate authorities, and it has looked in each of those files and looked for the line that have what? Root. And it has brought it out for us. So all we're going to be doing is that we will just check and see. Now you see now list of certificate authorities. If you Google and say purchase SSL certificate, you are going to see most of these companies, right? The names of the root certificate files refers to certificate authority that granted them. What are 3 of the most common certificate authority on your computer? Research them on the internet. What's the cost of a single domain basic SSL for one? So what you could do, you could just go to Affirm Trust Commercial, Amazon Roots, right? Baltimore Cyber Trust, and you can check up how much they sell for certificate, right? So you're going to see average of this, right? Global Sign is going to be selling depending on the type of certificate. Is it for one website? If it's for multiple websites? Is it for one website? Is it for the website and the subdomain names, right? So that's the kind of research you want to work out. You're going to get something in this line. Okay, that's that for that. So that's just to help us do some reconnaissance footprinting, understand about certificates. Now, access detailed certificate information online. So the point is that you've gotten certificate details, you've gotten the owner, when it was bought, when it's expiring. Can we get further details? For this lab, we can run that on Windows. We'll just go to this link. So the name of the link is crt.sh, right? All you need to do here is just to put a domain name, hit enter. It's going to tell you all the certificates that the domain name has. Enter skills for all URL. So for here, I'm just going to enter netaccount.com. Right? I'm going to hit enter. It's going to tell me all the certificates that is run by NetAccount. It's also going to tell me all the subdomain names or the directory that those certificates are protecting. Right? Are you seeing the issuer? You see some subdomain names are protected by Let's Encrypt. Some domains are protected by Amazon. Some domain are protected by DigiSat. Funny? No, it's not funny. Some certificates are protected by what? Google. What it means is that maybe they have this domain name that they have some Google services or some Google services running there. but not readily available to the public, right? So you cannot access that. They might have an internal IP address that is mapped on that, but that particular subdomain name is protected by Google services. So you see, these are several certificate authority issuers. Okay, so the resulting table lists comprehensive information for certificate issued for the domain name of your choice that you're checking for. The list goes back to as long as, okay, let us see. This list goes back to 2013, right? You can give us like a kind of history around about all the certificate authority providers they've been using over time. What other domain name is associated with Skill for Learn? Or what other domain name is associated with NetAcad? Are you seeing something like I saw Skill for All a while ago. So let me just go back and say, let's say Facebook. Right? If we check Facebook, we're going to see most of their subdomain name, most of their certificate authorities, then other domain names that are associated with facebook.com. So while that is coming up, let's see some other items. Search crt.sh on the domain that's affiliated with Skill4Learn. What general observation do you make, right? So you can have some subdomain names such as this on the website, and that subdomain name can be vulnerable, right? See for Facebook, let's see if we can see another domain that's associated with Facebook. I see all of these subdomain names, they are owned by Facebook for different purposes. If you check Facebook history of most big companies, they've acquired several companies over time. Like Facebook, you see that video call you have, you see that chat, you see that messenger. Those are several companies that have been integrated into that Facebook platform you are seeing. So a lot of things happen behind the scene. So that's why at times, oh, look at something I'm seeing. I'm seeing presto.vip.facebook. Let's see what it says. Okay, so this might be accessible via a, what was it called? Let's see when, 2020. Okay, look at this particular URL. So you can see different, oh, this is redirecting back. So it might check your IP address, and if you're not the IP address that should have access to that, it can take you back to the home page. So some of these are public facing, some of them are not public facing. So this will just give you like a large scale knowledge about the certificate, the issuer, all of the different domain names or subdomain names that are associated with that particular domain. Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on. So another part of the lab is lab part 3. So on your what's it called? On your Kali Linux, there are quite a lot of other tools that you can use to investigate SSL. So some of them are SSL scan, SSL dump, SSLH, SSL split, SSL or SSL or SSLize, right? So all of these tools will still help you do one or two things. The goal can be reconnaissance, can be exploitation, can be utility, can be exploitation, can be reconnaissance, right? Now, you also have in part 4, use Kali Linux tools to gather certificates information. So one thing you want to do is to use, you can first update your Kali Linux before you run each of these scan. You see, this is SSL scan. This is the first one. So this is what the command looks like, right? You can update so that it's updated before you can run the file. I could just go to Kali. So let me go here. I can go to Kali and I can run SSL scan and I say netacad.com, right? So it's going to give you details about that particular domain name in terms of SSL. So it's connected through this. It's going to tell you the issuer. It's going to tell you what vulnerabilities you can see there. It's going to tell you quite a lot of stuff. So are you seeing heartbleed? So there are associated vulnerabilities with respect to to SSL. So that a website have SSL or an application have SSL does not mean that it's not vulnerable. It can be vulnerable if it's using an encryption method that is a little bit outdated or that is vulnerable, right? Are you seeing just with this particular scan, SSL's NetApp card, we were able to get all of this. If we say, okay, SSL scan facebook.com, we can also do all of that. Now, one thing you can find out about testing this on 443, compression disabled, not vulnerable, not vulnerable, not vulnerable. So you're going to see that some applications or some websites are going to be vulnerable to some of these vulnerabilities. Now, there are some hints here when you use this particular tool. After a brief delay, you will see results of scan. Now, when you see a red background, null cipher, no encryption was used, right? When you see red, broken cipher. When you see yellow, weak cipher. Are you seeing? When you see purple, anonymous cipher. Now, the question is, while SSL scan provides option for outputting results in text or XML, XML is extensible markup language. It's just like a simplistic way to like it's like it looks like HTML, but it's like a format for web. The readability of HTML and the preservation of color coding is provided by AHA. So to use AHA, pipe the output of the SSL scan command to AHA and then redirect the output of AHA to a HTML file. So what we're going to be doing is that we're going to run two commands. The first one is going to be do SSL scan for the domain name, then use AHA and export that this result you have now to a file. The name of the file is going to be what? Whatever.html, right? So this SSL scan will now save in the Kali home directory as indicated in the prompt. So let us try that out. So I'm just going to clear my screen. And I'm going to say SSL scan netaccount.com. Then I'm going to pipe that command and say, okay, please, AHA, I want you to do something for me. The result of this particular scan, please export it to a file called certificate.html or certificate export.html, right? So I'm just using something different. You can still use something the way it is here or whatever name you want to give it. It's just the name of the file you want to export those results. Instead of those things that we got, we say we want to save it, right? Maybe for feature check or all of that. So once I hit enter, it's just going to run its thing. And if I check my directory, I'm going to be able to see that file. Okay, good. So the scan is completed. If I do a PWD, present working directory, right on my Kali Linux home, I can do a dir. I'm going to see right? I can use a tool like Nano to view the file. So it's just going to open it. I'm going to see what is there. I can also decide to go to my home, see the file, right? I see the file, I've exported it. I can right click and say open with Firefox, and it's going to show me everything. Okay, reflection. Compare the output of the tools used in this lab. Which tool seems to give the most detailed information? For me, it's crt.sh, the online tool. I normally tell my students that, yes, it's good to use quite a lot of tools, but you're not going to be waiting for when you have opportunity to use a tool. You can have what's it called? You can have, in trying to run things, you can be looking for just a second. You can be looking for a web utility. You can be looking for a script. You can be looking for a tool. So this is typically a software. So this is a website, right? Just like if you want to do information gathering, there are some websites, there's some utility online that you can just, like Whois, for instance, you can just put a domain name and you get stuff. Like crt.sh, you can put your domain name, you can get all of these details. That's one. You can decide to create a script, a Python script or a PHP script that's going to do what? That's going to still perform the same function. Or you can start to say, okay, no, I want to have a software I have to install. Then anytime I need to do that stuff, I'll have to load up the software and I'll perform the stuff. So this is one way you can perform stuff. This is the second way you can perform stuff, and this is the third way you can perform stuff. For me, for instance, I prefer web utilities. Is if I don't have a web utility to perform that particular function, then I can maybe make my script. Then for me to use a software, right, it then means there's no web utility, there's no script. Then I will not have to install a software, load it, and make it work, or maybe go to Kali and whatever. That's why you classify the guys here as what? Script kiddies. Why? They use the tools of others. Same thing for here. So this is for convenience. But once you can create your own script yourself, so you have full control. Okay, that's that about this lab. I think maybe in some other time, at some other time, we can create a script ourselves that is going to help us to perform this particular function. We can host it, and it's going to do exactly the same thing. But the thing there is that that tool might be piggybacking on an API to be able to grab all of these details. See you in the next lab.